For those of you that have given birth, you know how postpartum can be some of your highest highs and your lowest lows all in the same hour. It's a roller coaster of emotions, lack of sleep, learning to care for your new baby or babies, caring for yourself and your postpartum body, your relationship. It's a lot to navigate. And if you're pregnant, today's session is what I wish I knew when I was pregnant with my first to help me prepare for the many emotions that were to come. When I was pregnant, focused so much on just this growing baby. How am I going to get it out? And no one really talked with me about thinking about life with a baby. My guest today is here to help you to enjoy new parenting by kicking worry to the curb. Hello, I'm Deborah Pascali Bonaro, founder and director of Orgasmic Birth and host of the Orgasmic Birth podcast. I am so honored to welcome Olivia Bergeron, who's a licensed clinical social worker, a psychotherapist, and a parent coach who founded Mommy Groove Therapy and Parent Coaching to help moms and dads parent in a way that they're proud of through empathy, connection, and self-care. And I also have to share with you that Olivia teaches in all my postpartum doula workshops that we do for both New York City and around the world. So it is such an honor to have you join me here today, Olivia, to share your wisdom.
Deborah, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
So I always start by asking people about if you're willing to share a little bit of your birth and how that may have led to your passion of all that you do today.
Definitely. Well, for me, it's certainly linked. My daughter was 2 when my twins were born, so I certainly experienced a lot of challenging times, a lot of transitions. With my daughter, I had an unmedicated birth. With my twins, they were breech transverse, so I had a very medicated birth. So I had to have a C-section with those guys. So for me, I really saw both sides of birthing stories, certainly. And I just realized after I gave birth that there was a real lack of support for parents. And that really led me to focus my practice, my psychotherapy practice, on helping parents from pregnancy on. And it really oriented me because I felt that I could offer something that maybe other therapists could not, and that I've seen both sides of different ways to give birth, but also I think that parents understand in a way that folks that haven't gone through that experience maybe don't understand as well.
Yeah. And wow, what a lot to have twins with a 2-year-old, right? And two different types of births. So really being able to hold that for yourself and then to birth that forward, as I often say, to support others. Because I think you're right. Like until you've been there, it's so hard to understand. And that's why it's hard for people that are pregnant today, right? That are listening. No one talked with me about postpartum or ways that I could parent. I didn't even think about parenting. I look back now and I think, how did I not think about that before I brought that baby home? So I would love to have you guide us a little bit today of how can people kind of enjoy their pregnancy and prepare for new parenthood?
Yeah, I think that living in the New York City area, I think that a lot of folks around here are away from their families of origin. I think in many urban centers or just for folks around the world, I think that you don't necessarily have your family nearby. And so I think that presents a challenge in and of itself because it puts a lot on the parents. And oftentimes you either have to buy the support or go without or try to negotiate it or barter with your friends. So just not having that support, I think, can be challenging. I also think that sometimes financial concerns come to the fore. That can really get in the way. Babies are small, but their gear is expensive, and they need a lot of it. And so I think professions also can take a back seat, or they can go sideways or slow down. So sometimes the finances really do get in the way because we start to reprioritize. Where maybe before your job was very high priority, it was very high on the list. Once a baby shows up, oftentimes that takes more of a back seat, and we want to prioritize our families, our children. So that might mean working less or even stopping working. And so that can present financial challenges for sure and some stress. Um, I think that sometimes too, we tend to compare. I think social media tends to really get in the way sometimes, and we seem to um, take that for granted that's just how it is. And oftentimes people on social media, they're putting out the best possible scenarios. They're not showing you the before and the after pics when, they had spit up all over themselves and their hair is all disheveled. um, Unfortunately. So we get this image of this is how parenthood is supposed to be. This is what pregnancy looks like. We don't see the stretch marks. We don't see the mess. So that gives us image that somehow we're not measuring up. We're falling short. They say comparison is a thief of joy. And I heartily believe that. I think too, we have a lot of information overload. We have Dr. Google, right? So if we have an issue, we Google it. And unfortunately, I tell my clients that Google will tell you whatever it is you want to hear. You will find somebody espousing that point of view. And I think sometimes when we're a little bit worried, a little bit anxious, we can go through, 5 pages on Google, and at the 5th page, there's some, listing that says, yes, this might be, might be something really bad. Then we take that and say, there's evidence to show that I was right in these assumptions that I made. So all that basically gets in the way of enjoying our pregnancy, of enjoying our new parenthood. I guess to get back to your earlier question, how do we step back and enjoy this time, because it is transient, it is temporary, but it is really a time full of a lot of change. I think change can be scary. We are going through, again, from finances to work to family structure to our friendships, our relationships, all those things are in flux. And that can be really, the unknown feels scary or dangerous sometimes. And I think for folks, if you don't have a sense of what's to come, that makes it feel worse. So instead, I think, can we embrace the unknown? Can we embrace that sense of possibility and stick to the side of excitement as opposed to anxiety? That's the goal, right?
Yes. So, what are some tips that you would have for parents? Because this is a time, I wish someone had had this conversation with me when I was pregnant. And for all those that are listening that are pregnant, or doulas that are supporting, families that during pregnancy to prepare, what would you suggest?
I really highlight with my clients the importance of self-care. That's the base of the pyramid. If you're not taking care of yourself, it's really challenging to take care of, your growing body or your child or your families. So I really highlight again and again that self-care is not selfish, that you need to take care of yourself, because then you can better take care of other people. But first, it starts with you. And unfortunately, people won't hand that to you on a platter and say, here, go take a nap, go get a massage. You really need to take action yourself and take take steps to make sure that's actually in place. So what does that look like? Brass tacks: sleep. Are you getting enough sleep? Your sleep quality, your sleep hygiene is really important. Do you go to bed watching screens? Do you go to bed with a sense of kind of the story, the checklist in your mind is running about things that need to get done tomorrow? So how do you make sure you get good quality sleep? Making sure you're not on screens at least an hour before bed. I have clients write out all the things that are on their mind, the to-do list, onto a piece of paper, put that on, next to their bed, and say out loud, I will handle this tomorrow. I don't need to do this right now. There's nothing you can do about all those things right now. Who you're going to call, what you need to pick up at the store, all those kind of to-do list, I think, that can kind of, and I can speak from experience, my head hits the pillow and it's like, oh, I need to do this and this and this. I finally have some quiet time. And that list, all those ideas, pop into your head. So if you can preempt that by taking time before bed, just a couple minutes, just to jot down the things that need to get done, then you won't forget it. Then you don't have to remind yourself at 3 a.m. That's one strategy. But also having a consistent bedtime routine. Just like we do, when people have babies and when they have younger kids, you kind of walk them down towards sleep by doing the same things every night. So maybe that's stretching out, putting some lotion on, brushing your teeth, washing your face, reading something, not too exciting, and then going to bed. Walking yourself through a similar routine every night helps wind yourself down to sleep. It cues your brain up. Okay, now it's time to shut down. Now it's time to go to bed. What else? I think too, the just really basics like water, food, vitamins. How much water are people drinking? Dehydration can make you feel depressed. It slows things down. It slows your system down. So making sure that people are having enough water every day, that they're eating consistently, eating good quality foods, particularly important after they give birth.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes, we're kind of so focused on the baby and feeding the baby and taking care of the baby, that maybe our own needs go out the window. And I've talked to so many clients where they tell me, I asked them today, when's the last time you had something to eat? Oh, I don't remember. Or they've forgotten to eat, or they're so busy doing something else. They just kind of get wrapped up into whatever it is they're doing that they don't get a chance to feed themselves. And I think, when we're hangry, when we're, when our blood sugar's bottoming out because we haven't had anything to eat, of course, we're going to be more irritable. We're going to be more on edge. We're not going to be our finest. So making sure you have time for that one-handed foods, I call it. You've got the baby in one hand. You can open the fridge, grab something out that's already been prepped. It's on a plate already for you. You can just grab it, take it, eat it. So making things as easy as you can on yourself is really key. Making sure you're having time for fun too. I think sometimes that gets, people don't consider, well, if I ask them, what do you do for enjoyment? What do you do for pleasure? What do you do for fun? They kind of look at me like, when do I have time for that? And I think it doesn't have to be anything too, writ large. It has to be something small, but things that you can do often. Do you have a favorite song? Can you just cue that up on your phone? When you're feeling kind of blue or kind of anxious or what have you, you play that song, you just know it's going to make you feel good. Dancing around the kitchen, that takes 5 minutes. Texting your friends, watching a funny podcast or listening to a funny podcast, watching a funny movie or a clip, doing something that brings you joy, brings you pleasure, but only takes 5 minutes. Giving yourself permission to do those things because you need to feel good. Your child needs you to feel good. So again, not selfish to take care of yourself.
I love that, Olivia. And I love that you're stating again, it's not selfish to do self-care. And you gave so many good tips that I hope people are really taking to heed. I love the bedtime ritual. I need to do that better too. So good reminders for all of us. But I know that you specialize too, that doesn't always go as even as you try to prepare all of this. We can still have added worry or stress or anxiety in postpartum. For people that want to know what to do if they're having feelings of like, this is so hard, I'm overwhelmed, what are some of your tips when they get there?
Yeah, I think we all get there sometime. Even if you're doing the preventive maintenance, even if you are really taking care of yourself, sometimes, we all slide into that place, that dark place. So I have clients think about the 3 S's: stop, soften, see. So when you are starting to get activated, when you're either starting to feel more pessimistic or you're getting, worried or your shoulders are hurting or your stomach aches, you're starting to manifest those symptoms, stop. Slow it down. Take a deep breath. Roll out your shoulders. I think sometimes when we go into that dark place, we start to get small and tight and kind of cramped. We hunch over, rolling out your shoulders, taking a deep breath. You're signaling to your brain, this is not an emergency. There's no cause to panic. Breathing deeply, having a longer exhale. So in for 3, out for 5. Slowing it down. Okay. Once you've had it kind of feel more managed, you're able to distract yourself. Then I give clients a few tools to kind of get off that, change tracks, looking around the room for everything that starts with A, and then B, and then C. It's a way to focus on the here and the now. When we're getting sad or worried about things, we're either worried about we're thinking about the past or the present or the future. We want folks to come back to the present. So we're looking around the room for everything that is pink or blue or red. Saying things out loud. Talking out loud helps bring yourself back to the present. It's hard to be thinking about, being 10 steps ahead when you have to like verbalize out loud. Thinking about 5 things that are going well. Just 5 things you're grateful for. Doesn't have to be anything major. The lights are on. I've got food in the fridge. My baby's taking a nap. I've got a nice podcast queued up, and I'm looking forward to seeing my partner tonight for dinner. Again, doesn't have to be anything earth-shattering, but focusing on cultivating a sense of positivity that things are okay. Things are maybe not even just okay, but they're going well. I think again, we tend to feel that things are really, it's easy to remember the negatives. We have a negativity bias, right? We see the negatives, we don't see the positives. We remember the bad things, we don't remember the good things. So if you can cultivate that, if you can sift out the things that are going well, it can make you feel better overall. So that's the stop. So the soften is really acknowledging your feelings, being compassionate towards yourself. This is a hard time. This is a challenging time. Full stop. Pregnancy, new parenthood, this is not for the faint of heart. It's okay to feel a little out of sorts. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person or a bad parent or you can't handle things. It means you're human. So that softening towards yourself, I think, is important. And then seeing, all right, let's look for the things that I'm concerned about. What are these possibilities or probabilities? I think we often conflate the two of them. We feel that, well, just because I have the thought, that must make it true. As if you have a crystal ball. And I can guarantee you do not, because nobody does. So if instead you're able to take a step back, look at things more objectively, okay, so what's more likely to happen? And if your brain tends to go to the worst case scenarios, walking down that path and saying, okay, if the worst thing I could think of would happen, could I handle that? Chances are, if you follow it through to completion, yes, you could handle it. Would it be hard? Of course. Do you want it to happen? Of course not. But could you handle it? Could you survive? Yes. So armed with that knowledge, okay, I can handle whatever's thrown at me, pretty much. That can give you a sense of confidence and a sense that, okay, I can do hard things and it's going to be okay. So that's the C. But I also think, I have clients look back to their own past challenges. I imagine that we've all come through hard times. How did you get through it? Okay. And clearly they did get through it. And can you look to that? Can you kind of not get stuck in the middle of that story, but look at the end of the story where you had success, you got through it, you managed, even if it was hard, you did it. So it's going to be okay. So it's that sense of kind of reassurance and kind of cultivating that sense of well-being and peace, knowing that, okay, I can do difficult things and it's going to be okay.
I love that. And I love that stop, sense, and see, right?
Stop, soften, see. Yeah.
Soften and see. Stop, soften, and see. That's so beautiful. And you really worked us through where you can really feel that's such a great toolkit. I'm thinking now, is there like a story, and I know, confidentiality, but just more generic of like someone that might have been in that place and then you've used that tools? Have you seen how people have come through challenge and been able to really embrace gratitude and find more confidence and peace and pleasure in that time?
Yeah, there's certainly clients that I've had that they tend to kind of take that idea and run with it. Their initial sense that, things are going poorly, so things are going to all end up bad. So we're going to end up in a bad spot because, they just assume that because it's challenging right now, it's always going to be challenging. And I think instead, when people stop, they slow things down and they give themselves some compassion and they can see, more realistically, get a better perspective on things. They're able to feel, okay, this is more manageable. Just because I have the thought does not make it true. My initial assumption that things are going to go badly and it's going to go that way forever, it's just not accurate. Feelings are temporary. All feelings change. All feelings, dissipate. No matter how bad you feel, it's not going to be forever. So I think too that reminding, clients that remind themselves that, okay, this is a temporary feeling and it's not always going to be this way. And what can I do right now to make myself feel better? So, looking towards, in other words, not getting stuck in the problem, but starting to problem solve. What can I
Yeah.
do? As opposed to, it's always going to be this way. Whenever you see that very black and white language, always, never, it's never going to change. It's always going to be this way. Nothing's ever going to get any better. That to me is an indication that, people are have the blinders on. They feel stuck. And that's when, stopping and taking that step back and looking at, okay, how do I see things from a different perspective? What would my partner say about this? What would my best friend say about this? What would my mom say? Borrowing somebody else's perspective sometimes can be helpful. What would my therapist say? The idea is really just to kind of like get out of your own head and to see that, okay, there are other ways to see this. My way isn't necessarily the right way or the only way, certainly. And when you can entertain other possibilities, it frees you up and it allows you to soften. It allows you to get that sense that, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I'm perceiving it to be. Because again, I don't have that crystal ball. I don't know exactly how things are going to play out. And maybe it'll actually work out well.
Such good advice. I truly wish I had you when I had my children, right? Because even just talking about it, I can feel the sense of calm in my body, right? And I hope for our listeners that you're feeling that these are tools helping you to prepare for welcoming your baby or those that are postpartum to integrate them. So for those that are pregnant, what would be one last tip you wanted to share with them as they prepare for this journey of parenthood?
Well, I think reaching out for help does not indicate a weakness. I really advocate folks line up help in advance. It's much more challenging to look for help at 3 o'clock in the morning, on Google, than if you do a little bit of research ahead of time. Reach out to folks, have conversations. Even if you don't use them, at least you've done the research ahead of time. At least okay, here's my lactation consultant if I need it. Here's my, therapist if I need it. These are folks that I've kind of pre-vetted them. I've got folks lined up. I think that in and of itself can give you a sense of confidence. Okay, I know how to handle things. I know what to do if things do go sideways. That can help a lot. So I do think I advise that folks, reach out and kind of get ideas from other folks about resources, do a little bit of vetting ahead of time, and then keep those folks in mind if you need it.
Great advice. And with that, you're on the top of my resource list all the time for new parents and for doulas. But so can you share with people about your practice, how they can reach you? And you are virtual, so it's not just for people that might be listening in New York, but wherever they are.
Absolutely. So I am licensed as a therapist in New York, New Jersey, and Florida, and I see people virtually there. As a parent coach, I can see folks around the world. So wherever they are, I'm happy to help them. My website is probably the best way to reach me, and that's mommygroove.com. But I'm also on Instagram. They can reach me using my name, Olivia Bergeron at NYC. And yeah, so those are really the best ways to reach me.
Fantastic. Well, those are all in the show notes. So wherever you're listening, make sure you look down into the notes so you can click right over to Olivia's website or follow her on social, which we hope you will. And we love to hear from you. Please share your comments, your thoughts from today. Tag us both, tag us at Orgasmic Birth so we can really continue to support you in your journey with parenthood. And again, thank you so much, Olivia, for joining us and sharing your wisdom. So appreciate it. And thank you to all our listeners for joining us. We really appreciate it if you can take the time to rate and review our podcast. Your rating and review helps us reach even more people to help them to positively prepare for birth and parenting. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.